orphan girl left on the trail by the stepmother until the richest cowboy adopted her. The girl was very young when she learned what it meant to feel unwanted. She lived in a small countryside town where everyone knew each other, yet no one truly knew her pain. Her real mother had passed away when she was still a baby, and her father tried his best to raise her alone. For a few years, she felt safe. Her father worked hard, came home tired, and still found time to smile at her. She remembered his voice, calm and warm, telling her that she was precious and never alone. Everything changed when her father remarried. At first, the new woman acted kind. She smiled in front of others and spoke softly when neighbors were around. But inside the house, things were very different. She never called the girl by her name. Instead, she used short, cold words or ignored her completely. The girl was given the smallest room, the least food, and the most chores. No matter how hard she tried, it was never enough. When the father suddenly passed away due to illness, the house became quiet in a way that felt heavy and empty. The girl waited for comfort, but none came. The stepmother changed almost overnight. There was no reason left to pretend. Her eyes held no warmth when she looked at the child. To her, the girl was now only a reminder of a past she wanted to erase. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. The girl woke up early every morning to clean, fetch water, and help around the house. She rarely went to school anymore. When she asked questions, she was told to stay quiet. When she cried, she was told she was weak. Slowly, she learned to keep her feelings inside. Even though she was treated poorly, the girl still hoped things would change. She believed that if she behaved well, if she worked harder, maybe one day her stepmother would accept her. That hope was the only thing that kept her going. At night, she whispered her thoughts into the darkness, speaking to the memory of her father, asking him to watch over her. The stepmother, however, had already made up her mind. She saw the girl as an obstacle. Money was limited, patience was gone, and her heart was closed. The girl's presence annoyed her more each day. Neighbors sometimes asked about the child, and that made the woman uncomfortable. She did not want questions. She did not want responsibility. One morning, the stepmother told the girl they were going for a walk. The girl was surprised. This had never happened before. A small spark of hope lit inside her. Maybe this was a change. Maybe today would be different. She quickly put on her worn shoes and followed the woman without asking questions. They walked far beyond the town, past open land and quiet paths. The trail was long and narrow, surrounded by tall grass and trees. The girl grew tired, but she did not complain. She was afraid that speaking up would ruin the moment. The stepmother's face was unreadable. She walked fast, never once turning back to check on the child. As they went deeper along the trail, the sounds of the town faded away. No voices, no carts, no signs of people, just the wind and the sound of their footsteps. The girl finally asked where they were going. The stepmother did not answer. They reached a point where the trail split near the edge of wide land that seemed to go on forever. The woman stopped. For a moment, the girl thought the walk was over. She waited, standing quietly, her heart beating fast. Without a word, the stepmother turned around and walked away. At first, the girl thought it was a mistake. She called out softly. No response. She called louder. Still nothing. The woman did not look back. Her figure grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared from sight. The girl stood frozen. Confusion filled her mind. She did not understand what was happening. She waited, thinking the woman would return. Minutes passed, then more minutes. Fear slowly replaced hope. The trail felt different now, longer, colder, and unfamiliar. She tried to follow the direction her stepmother had gone, but every path looked the same. Panic rose in her chest. Her hands shook as she realized the truth. She had been left alone. Tears rolled down her face, but she wiped them quickly. Crying would not help. She remembered her father's words, telling her to be brave even when things felt impossible. Holding on to that memory, she took a deep breath and looked around. The sun was moving lower in the sky. She knew she could not stay still. So she started walking, choosing the path that seemed most worn, hoping it would lead somewhere safe. Each step felt heavy. Her legs hurt, and her stomach ached from hunger. As she walked, memories filled her mind. She remembered sitting beside her father, listening to stories. She remembered his promise that no matter what happened, she mattered. Those thoughts gave her strength when fear threatened to stop her. The trail seemed endless. The land was quiet, almost too quiet. Every sound made her heart jump. Still, she kept going. She did not know where she was headed, but she knew she had to move forward. By the time the sky began to change color, her energy was nearly gone. She stumbled and almost fell, but caught herself. Ahead, she noticed a long fence stretching across the land. Beyond it, she could see signs of life, wide fields, distant buildings, and the feeling that people might be nearby. She reached the fence and held onto it, breathing hard. Her legs could no longer support her. Slowly, she sat down near the fence, resting her head against the wooden post. The fear was still there, but now it mixed with exhaustion. As darkness began to settle, the girl closed her eyes, unsure of what the next moment would bring. She had been unwanted, left behind, and forgotten, yet somewhere deep inside a quiet strength remained. She did not know it yet, but this lonely trail was not the end of her story. The girl woke up slowly as the cold air touched her face. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then the hard ground beneath her and the wooden fence against her back reminded her of everything. Her body felt stiff, and her stomach hurt badly from hunger. The night had been long, filled with strange sounds and restless sleep. She had curled into herself, trying to stay warm and safe. The sky was just beginning to change color. Soft light spread across the land, and the world slowly came alive. Birds made gentle sounds, and the wind moved through the grass. To anyone else, it might have looked peaceful. To the girl, it felt uncertain and frightening. She pushed herself up carefully. Her legs shook, but she stood anyway. She knew she could not stay there forever. Someone might come, or no one might come at all. Waiting without trying felt too dangerous. She looked along the fence and then down the trail. Both directions looked the same. Her heart felt heavy. She did not know which way would lead to safety. Still, she remembered her father's voice telling her to keep moving, even when she was scared. That memory gave her courage. She chose one direction and started walking slowly along the fence. Each step felt hard. Her shoes were worn, and small stones hurt her feet. Her mouth was dry, and her head felt light. She tried not to think about food, but the thought kept returning. As she walked, she noticed how wide the land was. Fields stretched far into the distance. The trail ran beside the fence, straight and quiet. Now and then she stopped to rest, leaning against the fence and catching her breath. She talked to herself softly, telling herself to keep going. The sun climbed higher and the air grew warmer. Her strength faded with every step. She wondered if anyone would ever find her. The thought made her chest tighten, but she pushed it away. Giving up was not an option. At one point she saw dust rising far away. Her heart jumped. She squinted, trying to see more clearly, but after a while the dust disappeared. Maybe it was just the wind. The disappointment hurt more than she expected. She kept walking. Her mind wandered to memories of her old life. Not the painful moments, but the few good ones. She remembered her father teaching her how to count stars. She remembered laughing when he carried her on his shoulders. Those memories felt like warmth inside her, keeping her moving when her body wanted to stop. By midday, her steps became slower. She felt dizzy and had to sit down again. She rested her head on her knees and closed her eyes. For a moment, fear tried to take over. What if no one came? What if she stayed lost forever? She opened her eyes quickly and shook her head. No, she would not let those thoughts win. She stood up again, holding the fence for support, and continued forward. Not long after, she noticed something different ahead. The fence turned slightly, and beyond it she saw buildings in the distance. Her heart began to beat faster. These were not small houses like in her town. These were large structures spread across the land. Hope returned. She walked toward them with renewed strength. Every step felt lighter now. She imagined people working there, someone kind enough to help her. She did not know who lived there, but it felt safer than the empty trail. As she got closer, she heard sounds she had not heard since leaving the town. The distant call of animals. The creak of wood. Life. Real life. Her legs almost gave out again, but she forced herself to keep going. She reached a spot near the fence where the ground dipped slightly. She carefully climbed down and then back up, using all her remaining strength. When she reached the other side, she collapsed onto the grass. She lay there, breathing heavily, staring at the sky. The clouds moved slowly above her. She felt both relief and fear. Relief that she was not alone anymore. Fear because she did not know what would happen next. After a few moments, she heard footsteps. At first she thought she was imagining it. She held her breath and listened carefully. The sound came again, steady and real. She lifted her head slightly and looked toward the sound. A figure was moving across the land, not too far away. It was a man, tall and strong, dressed like someone who worked outdoors. He was walking with purpose, checking the fence and the land around him. Beside him, a horse moved calmly, following his lead. The girl tried to speak, but her voice did not come out. Her throat felt tight. She tried again, pushing all her strength into it. "Help!" The word was barely a whisper, but it was enough. The man stopped. He looked around, alert. He listened carefully, then turned toward the sound. His eyes scanned the area until they landed on the small figure lying near the fence. He moved quickly now, walking toward her with concern. The girl tried to sit up, but her body refused. She felt weak and embarrassed. Tears filled her eyes, but she did not hide them this time. She was too tired. His face showed surprise and worry, not anger or annoyance. He spoke gently, asking if she was okay, asking where she had come from. The girl tried to answer, but the words came slowly. She told him she was alone. She told him she had been left on the trail. She did not say more than that. It did not need to. The man listened quietly. He did not interrupt. When she finished, he nodded slowly, as if he understood more than she had said. "You're safe now," he told her. Those words reached deep into her heart. Safe. She had not felt safe in a very long time. He helped her sit up and offered her water from his bag. She drank carefully, grateful for every small sip. He gave her a small piece of food, making sure she ate slowly. He stayed close, watching her, making sure she did not feel scared. As she rested, she looked around. The land felt different now. The fear that had followed her since the trail began to fade. She did not know who this man was, or what would happen next, but she knew one thing. Someone had finally seen her. As the sun continued its journey across the sky, the girl sat beside the fence, no longer alone. The long trail that had nearly broken her had led her here, to this moment, and even though her future was still uncertain, a quiet feeling grew inside her. The man did not rush her. He stayed beside her, calm and steady, as if he had all the time in the world. The girl noticed this right away. Most adults she had known were always in a hurry, always annoyed. This man was different. He spoke slowly, clearly, and waited for her to feel comfortable. After she drank some water and ate a little food, strength slowly returned to her body. She was still tired, but the sharp pain in her stomach eased. She looked up at the man again. He had kind eyes and a face shaped by years of working under the open sky. His clothes were dusty and his boots showed signs of long days on the land. Everything about him said he belonged here. He asked her name. She told him softly. He repeated it once, as if to remember it properly. That small act made her feel important. No one had said her name with care in a long time. He asked where she came from. She explained as much as she could in simple words. She did not blame anyone. She did not cry loudly. She just told the truth the way a tired child does. Without anger, without drama, just facts. Being left behind, walking the trail, sleeping near the fence. As she spoke, the man's expression changed. His jaw tightened slightly and his eyes grew serious, but his voice remained gentle. "That must have been very hard," he said. Those words surprised her more than anything else. No one had ever said that to her before. Her chest felt tight, and she nodded, unable to speak. The man stood up and looked around. He whistled softly, and the horse stepped closer. He explained that this land belonged to him, that he checked it every morning to make sure everything was in order. He said people in the area knew him as a cowboy, but he was more than that. He ran one of the largest ranches in the region. Animals, land, workers, he managed it all. The girl listened quietly. None of that mattered to her. What mattered was that he was real, and he was here. He told her she could not stay by the fence. The sun was getting stronger, and she needed rest. He asked if she could walk a little more. She nodded, even though she was unsure. He noticed her hesitation and smiled. "We'll go slowly," he said. "No rush." She leaned on him slightly, and he adjusted his pace to match hers. They walked toward the ranch buildings together. The horse followed calmly behind them. As they walked, the girl noticed how wide and open everything felt. There were no tight walls or dark rooms. The air smelled fresh. She heard animals in the distance and saw workers moving across the land. Some looked toward them with curiosity but did not speak. When they reached the main ranch house, the girl felt nervous again. The building was large, larger than any home she had ever seen. She wondered if she belonged there at all. The man seemed to sense her worry. "You're welcome here," he said simply. Inside, the house was warm and clean. Not cold or silent like her old home. There were signs of life everywhere. Boots by the door, tools neatly placed, and sunlight coming through wide windows. The man called for help, and soon a woman came in. She looked surprised to see the girl, but did not question it. She listened carefully as the man explained the situation. Her face softened as she looked at the child. The girl was given more food, warm water to wash, and a quiet place to rest. Everything felt unreal. She ate slowly, afraid it might all disappear if she moved too fast. When she lay down, her body finally relaxed. Sleep came quickly and deeply. When she woke up later, the light outside had changed. For a moment, panic rushed in. She thought she might be back on the trail. But then she saw the room, the clean blanket, and felt the softness beneath her. She was safe. The man returned and sat nearby, making sure she was awake before speaking. He asked how she felt. She said she felt better. That was true, but it was more than her body that felt different. Something inside her had shifted. He asked her about her life before the trail, about school, about what she liked, about her father. When she spoke about him, her voice trembled, but the man listened closely. He did not change the subject. He did not look away. "He sounds like a good man," the cowboy said when she finished. She nodded. As the evening came, the man made a decision. He explained it carefully so she could understand. He said he could take her to officials who handled children without families. But he also said those places were crowded and cold, and children often felt alone there. Then he paused. He told her that if she wanted, she could stay at the ranch for now. She would be safe, fed, and cared for. No one would force her to decide anything right away. The girl did not answer immediately. She looked down at her hands. She had learned not to trust kindness. It often disappeared. But something about this felt different. He was not promising miracles. He was offering safety. "I'd like that," she said quietly. The man smiled. Not a big smile, but a real one. Days passed. The girl stayed at the ranch. She watched how things worked. She saw how the man treated everyone with fairness and respect. Workers trusted him. Animals responded to him. He was firm but kind, strong but patient. He noticed how carefully the girl moved through the space, always trying not to disturb anything. He noticed how she thanked people for the smallest things. He noticed how she flinched when voices got loud. He understood more than she said. One evening they sat outside watching the sunset over the land. The sky was painted with soft colors. The girl felt calm in a way she never had before. The man spoke gently. He told her that he had no children of his own. His life had been full of work and responsibility, but something had always been missing. When he found her by the fence, it felt like fate. Not luck. Not chance. Something deeper. He told her he was thinking about adopting her. The word felt heavy and bright at the same time. She looked at him, unsure if she had heard correctly. He explained what it meant. That she would be his daughter in every way that mattered. That he would protect her. That she would have a home. Tears filled her eyes, but this time they were not from fear. "Are you sure?" she asked. He nodded. "I've never been more sure of anything." The girl looked out at the land. The wide fields, the strong fences, the open sky. The trail that had once taken everything from her had led her here. She took a deep breath. "Yes," she said. In that moment, the past did not disappear, but it lost its power. The girl who had been left behind was no longer alone. She had been chosen. Life at the ranch slowly began to feel real to the girl. At first, every morning she woke up confused, unsure where she was. She expected harsh words or orders shouted at her, but instead, she heard calm voices, the sound of animals, and the steady rhythm of work beginning for the day. Each time she realized she was still there, still safe, her heart felt lighter. The cowboy made sure she was never rushed. He understood that healing took time. He did not demand smiles or gratitude. He simply showed up every day, just like the sun rising over the land. That consistency meant more to her than big promises ever could. She was given her own small room in the house. It was simple, but it was clean and bright. There was a window that looked out over the fields, and every morning she watched the light spill across the land. She kept her few belongings neatly arranged, afraid to take up too much space. Old habits were hard to break. The people who worked on the ranch were kind in quiet ways. They greeted her, asked if she was comfortable, and never treated her like a problem. Some brought her small things, a piece of fruit, a book, a warm jacket when the air turned cold. No one asked her to explain her past. They accepted her as she was. The cowboy encouraged her to return to school. At first, the idea frightened her. She worried she would not fit in or that she would fall behind. But he reassured her. He arranged everything carefully and made sure she had what she needed. On her first day, he walked her to the gate himself. "You're not alone," he told her. "I'll be right here when you come back." Those words stayed with her all day. School was not easy at first, but she tried. She listened closely, worked hard, and slowly began to catch up. Teachers noticed her effort. Other children were curious but not unkind. For the first time, she felt like she had a place where she belonged. After school, she often helped around the ranch, not because she was told to, but because she wanted to. She fed animals, learned how to care for them, and listened carefully when the cowboy explained things. He never talked down to her. He explained work with patience, teaching her responsibility without pressure. As weeks turned into months, changes became clear. The girl began to stand a little straighter. She laughed more easily. The fear that once lived constantly in her eyes slowly faded. She still had moments of silence and sadness, but now she had someone who noticed. The adoption process took time. There were papers, questions, and visits from officials. The girl was nervous each time, afraid something would go wrong. But the cowboy handled everything calmly. He answered every question honestly. He never hesitated. When the day finally came, it was quiet. No big celebration. Just a simple moment when everything became official. The girl sat beside him holding his hand. When it was done, he looked at her and smiled. "Welcome home," he said. The word home felt different now, stronger, real. As time passed, people in nearby towns heard about the adoption. Some were surprised. Others were curious. A few were doubtful. They whispered about why such a successful man would take in a child with nothing. The cowboy did not respond to any of it. He did not need approval. She felt unsure again, worried she might embarrass him. One evening, she finally asked, "Do people mind?" She said quietly. He looked at her and shook his head. "People will always talk," he replied. "What matters is what we know." The ranch became more than just a place to live. It became a place of learning. The girl learned about honesty, hard work, and kindness, not through lectures, but through daily life. She watched how the cowboy treated workers fairly, how he listened, carefully thinking of others. She also learned that strength did not mean being cold. It meant being steady, even when things were difficult. Sometimes memories of the past returned. Certain smells, certain sounds brought back fear. When that happened, she did not hide anymore. She spoke to the cowboy. He listened every time. "It wasn't your fault," he would say. Slowly, she began to believe it. One afternoon, they rode together along the edge of the land. They followed the fence, moving slowly. The girl recognized the path. Her chest tightened. This was the trail. She stopped, unsure if she could go further. The cowboy noticed immediately and slowed down. "We don't have to," he said. She took a deep breath. "I want to," she replied. They continued together. The trail no longer felt endless or frightening. It was just a path now. She realized something important in that moment. The place that once marked her worst memory no longer controlled her. She had changed. At the end of the ride, she smiled for the first time along that trail. The cowboy smiled too, understanding what it meant. As the seasons changed, the girl grew, not just in age, but in confidence. She spoke more freely. She dreamed again. She talked about the future, about what she wanted to learn and who she wanted to become. The cowboy listened, proud but never pushing. He gave her space to grow while always being there when she needed him. The ranch continued to thrive, but something else thrived too. A bond built on trust, choice, and care. They were not connected by blood, but by something just as strong. By the time the girl realized it, she was no longer the child left behind on a trail. She was a daughter. And the ranch was not just land. Years passed quietly, the way meaningful time often does. The girl grew, not suddenly, but steadily, like the land around the ranch. Each season left its mark on her. The fear that once followed her everywhere slowly faded, replaced by confidence and calm. She was no longer the silent child who tried to disappear. She had a voice now, and she knew it mattered. Life on the ranch shaped her in gentle ways. Mornings began early, with sunlight stretching across the fields and animals calling for care. She helped before school, learning responsibility without being overwhelmed. After school, she studied, read, and sometimes sat with the cowboy on the porch, talking about small things and big ideas. Those moments meant everything to her. The cowboy never tried to control her future. Instead, he encouraged her to explore it. When she showed interest in books, he filled the house with them. When she asked questions about the land, he answered patiently. When she spoke about helping others one day, he listened closely. "You don't have to become anything for me," he told her once. "Just be who you are." Those words stayed with her. As she grew older, she began to understand the weight of what he had done for her. Not just adopting her, but choosing her without hesitation. He had seen her at her weakest and decided she was worth everything. That kind of belief changed how she saw herself. School became easier. She made friends. Teachers praised her focus and kindness. She never forgot where she came from, but it no longer defined her limits. Instead, it shaped her compassion. She noticed children who felt invisible. She helped when she could. She understood pain in a way others did not. One afternoon, while helping organize old papers in the ranch office, she found a map folded neatly in a drawer. It showed the land in detail, including the long trail near the fence. She paused, staring at it. The memory came back, but this time it did not hurt the same way. She carried the map outside and showed it to the cowboy. "I remember this place," she said. He nodded. "I know," she thought for a moment. "I want to do something there." They talked for a long time. Slowly, an idea formed. With his support, she helped turn a small part of the land near the trail into a resting place. Nothing grand, just a safe area with shade, water, and signs pointing toward help. A place where no one would feel lost or alone. It became something people talked about, not because it was large, but because it was thoughtful. When she stood there for the first time, watching someone stop to rest, she felt something settle inside her. The trail that once marked her pain now carried purpose. The cowboy watched her from a distance, pride in his eyes. He never said much, but she knew what she meant to him. She was not a burden. She was not a mistake. She was family. As she reached adulthood, she chose to study subjects that allowed her to help others. She traveled sometimes, but she always returned to the ranch. It was her anchor. No matter how far she went, it remained home. People who met her were often surprised by her calm strength. They asked where it came from. She never gave a long answer. She simply smiled and said she was lucky. But she knew it was more than luck. It was one choice made by one man on one ordinary morning. On the day she officially took responsibility for part of the ranch, they stood together at the fence once more. The same fence where her life had almost stopped had become a symbol of how far she had come. "Do you ever think about that day?" she asked. The cowboy nodded. "Every day. Me too. But not with sadness." He looked at her understanding. As the sun dipped low and the land glowed in warm light, the girl, now a woman, felt complete. Not because her past had disappeared, but because it no longer held power over her. She had been abandoned once, but she had been chosen after that.